bastards with heroes rise. The dying words to modern skies. Crushing them with power we fight. Strength that breaks you night in the night. Where the brawn meets the blood. The starry stone in this love imagination mode. With every stroke, adventures unfold. Wings and muscles, heart and soul. Guidance in hand and worlds to explore. Roll the future, hear the dice roll. Gaining realms of muscles drawn. Together in this place where we belong. Golden spells casting dreams until the dawn. Leveling up and the world to follow. With painted heroes shining bright. Venturing onward in the endless night. Where the brawn meets the blood. The starry stone in this realm of imagination mode. With every stroke, the vengeance unfold. These are my soul, our soul. Where the brawn meets the blood. The starry stone in this realm of imagination mode. With every stroke, the fate to fight for. Peace of my soul, our soul.
Hello, 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 one and all. Oh, crikey, that's a bit loud. Let's turn that down to start with. How are we? Oh, let's get myself prepared. Let's, as we do at the start of every show, customary, get rid of the power cable, shall we? Let's hang that up there out the way. Just in case we need it later. Oh, Adrian, you're here. Good evening, sir. Are you sat in the cinema typing on your phone? Oh dear, I hope you're well, Adrian. I will put it in the chat just in case you're on no volume. Hopefully you're all well, you're all doing good. Happy Friday 1. Happy Friday all. Did I have a good holiday? Adrian, thank you very much for asking. Yeah, it was just a couple of days away. So it was my father's birthday. So me and the family, dad and sister and all that, went over to Malta for a couple of days because that's where my family are from, and it was very, very nice. Very hot, but very nice. Yeah, so it was all good. Thank you very much for asking, Adrian. I hope you're well. And talking of not just Adrian, I hope everybody here is well that is watching tonight. How are we? How are we doing? What's been happening? Because it's been a week since we've been away. Excuse me, and welcome, by the way, to the 50th Minis-N-Muscles. What? The 50th Minis-N-Muscles. Can you believe it? I can't believe it that I've done 50 of these. That's quite crazy. So we've been going just over a year now, which is absolutely mental. And I'm still doing it, so it must be half. I must be half enjoying it. So hopefully you are enjoying it. Welcome one, welcome all. Hopefully you are able to join me this evening and enjoy. Like, just remembered, I should get my brushes ready. But welcome to the place where the brawn meets the brush. If I keep coughing, it's because actually I keep losing my voice. So halfway through the show, I might end up being very hoarse and losing my voice. Either that or just drinking lots of water from my very large mug. Oh, there we go. So, as I said, welcome. How was your week? So drop it in the chat. Let me know how your week's been, what's been going on, what's been happening. I shall recap my last week since I've seen you all last. So, as Adrian pointed out in the chat, I have been on holiday, so a couple of days away. Nothing major, just a couple of days away with my family. Apart from that, what else has been going on? Well, let's think. D&D. So I've played D&D recently. So our campaign, we have a bi-weekly campaign that runs. So every 2 weeks we get together on a Tuesday, and it just happened this week. And we play D&D. So I've just started playing the campaign there. It's very, very good so far. And I'm playing a character called Blind Willie Johnson, which is quite a funny character. He's a blind monk. So it's sort of has its own inherent problems. playing D&D and your character is supposedly blind. So yes, so that is good, but that's a lot of fun. What else has been happening? Played Warhammer. Actually played Warhammer yesterday. So I played Warhammer yesterday with my Sisters of Battle, and very close game actually. I did lose on points, killed all of the other army outright, but lost on points because I just didn't have very good secondary missions. So a couple of points out. I think it was about 8 points difference or something like that. Not a huge amount. So yeah, and this weekend I've got more geekery coming up. So Sunday I've got another Warhammer game, possibly a 1v1v1. So that will always be interesting because whoever ends up sort of in the centre of the board ends up just getting swamped. So that's normally the thing that happens. Apart from that, what else has been going on? I think that's about it really. I haven't painted a huge amount recently, so that's kind of got to me a little bit because I do love painting. So I want to try and get some more of that done because I've got obviously a few Sisters of Battle just to finish off. But I've also got some Space Marines to do as well. So I've got loads of bits to catch up on really, paint-wise. And that brings me back to the show. And we will be continuing the painting of this chappie here, Uriel Ventris. So the sort of 2 weeks ago we got to this stage here where we'd sort of built and assembled part of him and painted part of him. So that's where we are in the paint and the build of this little chap. We will continue that throughout the show today from 7 o'clock till 9. Apart from that, as always, we have 3 elements to the show if you are new to us. Those 3 elements are our general thematic chat point for the show. So today it's just generally going to chat about Warhammer today. Just talk about all the different units that you can be, some good points, some bad points, and just a general chit chat. So if you like Warhammer or you're interested in Warhammer, it's not going to be a full breakdown and going into deep lore. It's just going to be very simplistic, good points, bad points about these armies, and then you can just chat away as to your heart's content. So feel free to drop some comments in the chat about Warhammer. As always, we wouldn't be the place where the brawn meets the brush. Oh, throwing my brush. Let's grab another one. The brush. If we didn't talk about our muscle moment. So during our muscle moment, what we do is we take a little bit of time out from the standard show of painting and geekery to talk about fitness. And this week, it's just about why you might not be progressing in your training and what might be holding you back. And then lastly, our third segment of the show is our our hobby horror. And for our hobby horror this week, we are going to talk about the fragile minis of the world. So I'll leave it at that and we'll talk about that later. However, that's our show for today. We run from 7 p.m. here on YouTube till 9 every Friday, or that's 7 p.m. BST, British Summertime. Every Friday, and we will be here forevermore. So welcome to show 50. If you are new to us, thank you for joining. Make sure you like, subscribe, make sure you turn on notifications, share it with all your geeky friends, and let's build a wonderful community. However, on with the show. And that's back to painting this guy. So Uriel Ventris, that's what he should look like. However, currently this is what we look like. Headless, armless. And baseless actually, so we need to crack on with these instructions. Fingers crossed, if you're joining and painting along with us tonight, you've got some fresh clean water and you've got a lovely wet palette. I sorted all mine out earlier because I'd obviously been away for a bit. Oh, this is looking a bit too wet actually, so I might have to try to dry this out a little. Ooh, this is probably going to go wrong. Just because sometimes if your wet palette is too wet, it does kind of make things a little bit almost impossible to paint because the amount of liquid you have in your wet palette then just disintegrates your paints completely. So don't do what I've done and have too much water in your wet palette. You want just about right so you get That's it. There you go. But I have got a fresh wet palette here, so we're all good. I've got my paintbrushes, I've got my paints, I've got my mixer here, we've got some glues, we've got our clippers, so we are set to crack on. So let's change our camera over to the top-down view. There we go. And let's bring our little guy into view there. There he is, looking wonderful as ever. So if we bring in the instructions, we got up to this point last week. Well, actually, up to this point last week, stage 3. And because the cape was behind the body here, we actually thought, right, let's stop and let's paint before we assemble. And sometimes that's the most effective way to do it, because you can't always get the right bits that you want done. So, or you might miss bits without sort of realising. So if we'd have sort of assembled this guy and before we painted, then we wouldn't have got all down the edges here, and we wouldn't get around the back here for the holster and the gun, or the pistol, sorry. So it's always worth having a little think when you're building your models, because you could paint on assembly, so it does help. So what's next then? Stage 4. So we've got to snip off a shoulder pauldron, and then we need this weapon as well. So we've got a bolter, and we've got a seal as well. So let's find those on here. So it's part 6, 8 and 7. 6, 7, 8. So there's 7. So we've got that lovely little seal there. Let's drop that down there. We've got the arm. So let's cut that out. Sorry, the shoulder pauldron. And let's cut out the bolter. So what I'm using here is just cutting straight off the sprue. You will see, if you are new to the channel, that is, or maybe not new to the channel, that I spray all the sprue as soon as I get the item, really, quite often. Spray the sprue, spray it all up, make sure it's got its primer on it, and then I paint off the top of that. So all we need to do now is just work around the piece that we've just cut out and just take off these little nubbins, and then we can glue him on. So how are we all anyway? I haven't seen you in for so long. It feels like so long anyway. So I'd love to know what you guys have all been doing. What have you been doing? Where have you been? What's been going on? It could be geek stuff. It could be fitness stuff. It could just be general chit chat. So drop it in the chat in our first sort of couple of minutes of the show. Tell me what's been going on. How are you, peeps? Squarish is online. Good evening, Stevie says, and all. Hope you are doing well. Well, I can't speak for everyone in chat, but I can speak for myself, and I'm not too bad. Apart from losing my voice and having a bit of a sore throat recently. I'm not quite sure why, which is the most frustrating part of it all, really. I'm pretty well, thanks. So we're carrying on with our Space Marine here for our Ultramarine army, which is actually looking pretty good now. So for speed, I kind of cheated and got my buddy Pete, who sometimes comments on the channel, to help me paint a few of models of my army, because he does commission painting. I don't do commission painting, but Pete does. So his name's Colour Me Pete. I think he's got an Instagram and other bits and bobs, but I've known him for many, many moons. So he's a good guy, very good painter, and he can do commission painting for you. So if you're needing a commission painting, find him on Instagram and all the rest of it. Colour Me Pete. Or you can message him in the Discord for Minis-N-Muscles. He's also in the Discord for Minis-N-Muscles. Drop him a message, Colour Me Pete. He might be able to help you with your model building. So essentially for my Space Marines army, I've done probably 75%, and Pete done, was it 3 units or 4 units? But they were only like 3-man units. One was a 10-man actually, the others were 3-man units. And then I've got all the sort of huge amount of bods to do. So he's just helped me to speed along the process, just so I can get those guys on the table. Because I'm really excited to play the Space Marines army actually. They look really cool. Right, let's have a look here. So, on the shoulder pauldrons, actually, there's some sort of green along the edges here. So, we need to find that green that we used last time. Where are you? Oh, crikey, I can't remember what green we even used. Was it this green? No, it wasn't this green, was it? Oh no, someone needs to jump in chat and tell me what green we used, because I can't remember for the life of me. Now I've got to rummage through all these bloody greens or colours and find out what I used and where I've put it. Oh gosh. Wasn't that green, was it? Sons of Horus green? No, I don't think that's too light. Oh, sorry for sticking my big fat head in the way. What we got here? Is this a right green? No, that's not that. Where the hell is... What green did I use the other week? Oh my... Oh, it's this one. Caliban green, that's what I used, I'm pretty sure. So that's what we used for the cloak. So we will do that for his shoulder pauldrons as well. Let's give that a little mix up. We will also need blue, our good old McCrag blue. So we'll give that a mix as well. What else have we got on the shoulder pauldrons? So if I bring this into view here, you guys will be able to see. We've got some white, we've got some gold, we've got the blue of course. So let's grab some white. We will use Corax white for our white. That seems to generally mix better than White Scar. White Scar is an awful paint to mix. But Corax white's it's a kind of greyish white or an off-white. But it actually looks really good when it's on a model because it doesn't look bright and stand outy. Actually, it looks very smart. So we got that, we got that. We probably need a gold as well. And for the gold, I think we'll use the good old Retributor armour. So we'll use that one as well. Let's just shake that up. And then hopefully we can get the shoulder pauldron on. Just thinking. Oh no, silver. Silver for parts of the bolter as well. We will use that. Yeah, we can't forget the silver, can we? Any other parts? No, because I think if I bring this into view here, look, you'll be able to see. Black, silvers, gold. Got. Oh, we might need that colour, which is going to be that one. So for the seals, purity seals, we've got Wraithbone, and I normally use this actually for the actual seal itself, Pink Horror, because I quite like a standout colour. Rather than that sort of dull red, I quite like a sort of brighty pink colour. So we'll bring that in as well. Mix this last one, and then we should be good. So, anyone else in chat there? Drop in a comment, say hello, tell me how your week's been. And then we'll get underway with the painting and the chat about Warhammer. Because this week, our general topic is Warhammer. We're going to talk about all the different armies in Warhammer that they're about in 10th edition. The good points, the bad points, and then we'll just sort of have a bit of a chat about them. So if I come across or start to talk about your favourite army, you can comment and drop in the chat and tell me all about your favourite army, because I'd love to know. So let's stick him there. And let's just think where we're going to start now. So let's grab that, put that up here, look, so we can see it. And we probably need to start with this green, don't we? So let's get a bit of this and put it into our wet palette. First colour of the evening. So it's nicely mixed up. Again, when you put any colours in, you don't need a huge amount to start with. Little is less is more type thing. So we've got this shoulder pauldron. Can we zoom in a bit? There we go. We've got the shoulder pauldron here. Which just need to apply a bit of green to, because it's got the wrap over of the cape. So we'll stick this in green. Yeah, so my week, as I said a minute ago in the intro, has been not too bad. I mean, it can always be better. Didn't win the Euro Millions, for example. But, oh, the Euro Millions is tonight, actually, isn't it? Crikey. I best buy a ticket sneakily whilst I'm doing my live stream. Because then I might be in with a chance of winning. And then you'll come back next week and you'll see that Minis-N-Muscles has gone from completely from, like, amateur to professional. We've got all the professional gear, and all I do all day is post about painting minis. If that happens, you know I've won the Euros. Yeah. So hopefully, though, you guys are good and you're keeping well. And life is pretty sweet. As best as it can be anyway in these crazy times that we live in right now. Because they are indeed very crazy times. But all we need to do on this model, talking of more interesting things than today's world, is get some green onto the edge of the shoulder pauldron. We've got it onto the cape now, so we just need to go around the edge of the shoulder pauldron. And we should be good. To be fair, actually, we should have probably done the blue first in the centre. I always do this. I always choose the wrong colour to start with. But that's okay, it doesn't matter. It's not, it's not the end of the world. Because no doubt we'll need to go back and tidy things anyway, so... There we go. Green over that side. Oh, dropping the pieces. It's never good. Let's just run some green over here as well. I quite like it on these shoulder pauldrons just to go across slightly like this with the side of the brush. Leave those little black gaps black. And just fill the edges. There we are. Only because sometimes when you're looking at a model, you can see that side and it looks quite cool to have a little bit of detail. Or a little bit of colour, sorry. Right, there we go for that. Don't think there's any green to be on that, so that's good. We can swap over to our McCrag Blue. So there you go, there's our McCrag Blue base. Let's pop the lid and get a little bit into the wet palette. Oh, yeah, so let's start our general chat, shall we? We're about 20 minutes into the show, so we probably should. I've done enough waffling right now. So our general chat for today is going to be just Warhammer in general and the armies that you can play. And we'll talk about some good points, some bad points. And you guys can jump in the chat and tell me all about your experiences either playing against those armies or perhaps collecting that army yourself or even just painting the models. I would love to hear your experiences nonetheless. So please do drop into the chat and tell me. So, we'll talk about 3 good things, we'll talk about 3 bad things, general chit-chat, and then we'll move on to the next army. Okay, so that's how the flow is going to work in our general chat today. And like I say, if you want to join in, please do, and have a little chin wag with me and tell me all about your experiences. So, first army, considering we're painting some, we should probably talk about Space Marines, right? Plus, in Warhammer 40,000, Space Marines are the poster boys of the game. So, they are the ones that Games Workshop put on every single poster. They are the ones that get kind of the most love, I guess, from Games Workshop themselves. They always receive a lot of attention. And to be fair, I would say, for those that don't play Warhammer, probably Space Marines are the ones that people will recognise purely because they've been on, a trailer for this or a poster for that or, something somewhere. You can't really walk past a shop that sells Warhammer without seeing them. So I thought that'd be quite appropriate to talk about Space Marines first. So if you're a Space Marine player, my question to you is, what Space Marine chapter do you play as? Why? What's your experience? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Drop it in the chat and tell me. So, for those that aren't so up on things, Space Marines aren't just Space Marines, You don't just get Space Marines and that's it. They have their own special chapters. And by chapters, that's a bit like different regiments of the army. So, for example, this guy that I'm painting here is an Ultramarine, designated by this U in the middle of his belt here. And then he has a shoulder pauldron and things like that. So there's loads of different chapters. Ultramarines, Raven Guard, Blood Angels. Absolutely loads. I won't go through every single one, but let's just talk in general about Space Marines and why they're quite good. So one thing I like about Space Marines is, or one of the reasons I feel they're pretty good, is because they have a lot of versatility and a lot of units. So for example, Ultramarines. I don't know, I've probably said in some of my other live streams before that one of the reasons why I like Ultramarines is they have loads of characters. Lots of different characters from across the different books and stories that come with the lore of Warhammer. And because they've got loads of books and because they've got loads of characters, they have loads of different models, and that makes them really interesting. So not only do they have loads of sort of exposure by Games Workshop, they have loads of characters because they're often in all the books, so they have loads of separate different models, which I find very interesting to paint. They have a load of detachments as well. So when you play Warhammer, you choose your army, and then within the army you have what's called a detachment, and that gives you your rules for the models you're using in that detachment. And the Space Marines have so many rules because they are the poster child of Games Workshop. They get loads of rules, which is good and bad. I mean, it means that you've got lots to choose from, so you have a lot of variety. But it also means you could be a bit overwhelmed because you've got so many to choose from. It's almost like confusing what to go with. So good and bad points there. But I think in general, Space Marines are pretty cool. They look awesome. So aesthetically, they're pretty cool looking. They do have a lot of different details on them. They have loads of different units. I've played different armies, like I said before. I played Sisters of Battle, but Space Marines, man, they have so many different units you can play as, so many different units you can have in your army. It's insane. So I think they're pretty cool for that reason alone. I don't know what you guys are thinking in chat. But if you've got a thought on Space Marines, drop it in the chat and we'll talk about it. One thing I would say is Space Marines are very easy to start. So a lot of the starter sets for Warhammer, if you're looking to get into Warhammer, that is, Space Marines have loads of support around them. Lots of people play them. They're very easily available, as in any shop will sell a Space Marine before any other faction. So you're going to have lots of support, and yeah, they're very easy to start up. They're pretty flexible as an army. So some different chapters that you might want to play as, they might be, for example, they might be very shooty. So all they do as an army is they shoot, and they're not very good. That's a bit like Sisters of Battle. Sisters of Battle can shoot a lot. However, if they go into melee, Sisters of Battle have probably got one unit that's good at melee, really. Whereas Space Marines are super versatile. So whether you like to get up close and personal or shoot the heck out of someone, they've got something that's going to appease everybody, I think, personally. Again, if you think I'm wrong there, drop it in the chat and let me know. Would love to hear from you guys and girls. So do let me know what you think of Space Marines. But that's what I think. Three good points. Easy to start, lots of support, and they're pretty flexible as an army. What's bad about it? What's bad about Space Marines? Well, they're pretty saturated. So there's so much choice. Actually, you could get lost in the choices. So, you know, it's not just Space Marines. You've got, like I said, all the different chapters. You've got all the sub-chapters as well that you could play. It's almost endless. So that could be quite daunting, I guess, for someone that's just joining. But if you're like me and you like customization and choice and options, then, you know, that's a bonus. What else is not so good? Their predictability. You could say that everyone chooses. Everyone chooses Space Marines, so it's quite a predictable army to pick. What we're having in chat, Adrian's saying, but Sisters of Battle get miracles. They certainly do, sir, because they're not particularly strong. Sisters of Battles we'll come to later are guided on faith, and faith alone will get them through the battle. So that's the sort of guiding force, whereas Space Marines are just the emperors, the god emperors, killing machines essentially. So they just have hardcore fighting abilities, whereas Sister Battle not so much. There we go, just putting a bit of green on the inside there of that. So this little piece now looks like it can go into place. We'll wait for that to dry though, because a little bit of green just needs to dry on that. So we'll just place that out of view and bring in the bolter. So if you know much about Warhammer, I'm going to ask you guys a question. What is your favourite chapter and why? So that question is, what is your favourite chapter of Space Marines and why? So I'd like you to drop that in the chat and tell me. Let's make it interactive. Let's have a bit of back and forth between you and I. I don't just like to hear the sound of my own voice here, but I like to listen to you guys too and what you have to say, because everyone's opinion matters. So stick in the chat, drop your points into the chat of what's your favourite Space Marine chapter and why. Could be absolutely anything. What drew me to Space Marines to play, as I said, one of my main points was that the amount of characters they have. So when I paint models, and I got into Warhammer through painting, not through the game, I just wanted to paint loads of different cool models. And Space Marines have a absolute butt ton of models. They really do have, my personal opinion is they have the most amount of different characters going. They really do. Even in the latest updates, they've just had another 3 or 4 different extra characters alone, which is cool. Like, so if you just like painting and you're not too worried about playing the game, Space Marines are a great choice, because there's just so many of them and so many options. You know, I think styles and colours wise, there'll be something for absolutely everybody. That's why I really like them. But what do you like, guys? What is your favourite Space Marine chapter and why? Drop it in the chat. Let me know. I can see you guys hanging out in the conversational alleyway. So what we're doing right now on this is just painting a little bit of blue on this guy. I haven't got my geek glasses on actually to really zoom in, but we might not need them. We shall see. I always leave the palm of their hands black rather than painting blue. So I'll always leave the insides of them a different colour. There we go. Sorry if my fat fingers are in the way. So these little pieces sometimes are quite hard to hold in the right position. There we go. So there's blue on there. What we could do, whilst we're waiting for that little hand to dry on the bolter, we could take this piece, this shoulder piece. Oh, we could take the shoulder piece and we could glue him on. Okay, so let's try that. Let's get my plastic glue out. Remember, don't use super glue on plastic models. It's never a good idea. Super glue is not good for plastic models. The reason being is that when you use it works. Super glue will work on plastic models, but if you ever drop them or you know, knock them over, what tends to happen with super glue on plastic models is the super glue just breaks. Because it's quite a brittle connection, whereas plastic glue kind of melts the two bits of plastic that you're gluing together, so it just makes a stronger bond. However, if you've got a metal mini or a resin mini or something like that, then actually you will need to use. You will need to use, super glue. There we go. Just got to get that in there. There we go. So just got the little shoulder in place. I have to tidy that up actually with a bit of what's it called? Green stuff, just to get rid of that line. But that should be good. So his arm is in place, or his shoulder, sorry, is in place. Could glue that on in a sec as well. So that's going to go onto there like that. But let's put some colour onto this bolter, because this bolter's got some quite nice variations of colour. First of all, we're going to put some silver on there, so I'm going to go for lead belcher on the silver. Cool, actually I'm running out of lead belcher. I need to go to the shops and get a new one. That's not good. Cool, yeah, I'm really low on lead belcher. That's not good at all. Right, so on this one, I'm going to go with the box art. I quite like the box art for the. You can see quite a lot of silver along the bottom there. So let's try and replicate that. So we're going to put silver all the way along this way. Silver goes all around there. Yeah, I think so. So that's all silver. I'm just kind of trying to mark the areas. That's silver, that's silver. Okay, that should be good enough. So is anyone else out there? Oh, Adrian is saying, dropping in on chat, saying iron hands because they're hard as nails. Oh, do you reckon? Is there any other reason, or why do you think they're so tough, iron hands? I mean, yes, they're kind of heretical Space Marines though, right? Because they've taken part of, and this is a bit geeky and a bit lore-y, but they've taken part of the body and replaced it with a mechanical piece, a bit like, you know, what the Adeptus Mechanicus would do. So is that heretical? I don't know, Adrian. They're a bit sort of a naughty faction there for that reason. Although they are quite cool, I must admit. And I think they've just had a new model released as well, Adrian. So I think it's Ferrus Manus has just been released, or is going to be released. So I think that's your next model, or should be at least. What else are we saying? Oh, I see that Ural Ventris practices good trigger discipline. Yes, he does. Yeah, he's very good on his trigger discipline here. And by that, Adrian's just pointing out that his trigger is not, his finger is not wrapped around the trigger. It's placed over the top. Which would be right, because actually when you see the pose in a minute that he's holding the weapon in, it's a kind of photo shoot style pose rather than a attacking an enemy type position. So yeah, he does have very good trigger finger discipline. So we talked about Space Marines then. That's purely because we're painting one right now, right? But let's talk about another army. So what about the God Emperor's very own personal protectors, the Adeptus Custodes? So these guys are like meant to be buffed up Space Marines. So they're tougher. They're like special. I'm trying to put it in like a layman kind of way for those that aren't too into Warhammer, but they're like a specially chosen, let's say specially chosen Space Marine kind of characters that are extra strong and are tougher than usual Space Marines, and their main job is to work directly for the God Emperor and carry out his biddings. So that's the Adeptus Custodes. So what's good about the Adeptus Custodes, I hear you say? Not literally, but, you know, we'll play along. So they're an elite army, so they're super tough. As I said there, they are like the sort of Space Marines, but the bigger, badder version. And they're super hardcore. I've played against them a couple of times, and it's insane. The saves that they get in the game are really, really ridiculously good, which is hugely annoying most time if you're playing against them. And if you're a Custodes player, it's hugely amazing because, you know, you get all these amazing buffs, powers, and saves. So yeah, so it's kind of a mixed bag, but they are an elite army. With that, it does mean, and here's a downside, that they're quite expensive. So when you're playing Warhammer, and I don't mean expensive as in to buy, all Warhammer is expensive to buy, that's regardless, but you have a points allocation, so you've got so many points you can spend on your army to bring them to battle. So depending on the size of the battle you want, gives you a certain amount of points. Now, Custodes are super expensive to play. So if I was to field my Sisters of Battle, for example, versus some Custodes at 2,000 points, I will easily have double, if not triple, the amount of units that the Custodes player will have on the board. Because their saves are very good, and because they're, you know, very strong and all the rest of it, they have less models, which is only fair, right? Because otherwise it would just be completely one-sided, and that wouldn't be fun at all. There we go so far. Look, there's the little bolter, looking quite nice. Let's get another colour up. So let's get the gold up. There we go. Just put the lid on my glue actually, otherwise the top's going to dry out. Yeah, so Adeptus Custodes, very, very cool in terms of their abilities. I don't really like how they look though. That was my biggest gripe with Custodes. I didn't really like how they looked. So I sort of steered away from them. However, they are super powerful, as I've mentioned. They do have a small model count, so that could be a bonus actually, because that means you've got less to paint. So if you're not a painty kind of person, actually you might want Custodes because it means you don't have as much to paint. So that might be your one and only reason to go with that army. The colour that I'm painting this bolter right now is the colour of Custodes, so they're mostly gold armour, so they're very shiny, very posh looking. They're like the show-offs, aren't they? They're the show-offs of the Emperor's Chosen, I guess. So what's bad about them? Well, the low model count, I'd say, could be a bad point, because it does mean when you're playing the game, it's not just about killing your opponent, it's about securing objectives and doing tasks. So, and to do those tasks, actually, you do require a certain amount of models on the table to be able to do this. If you don't have a high model count, or not a high model count, but a decent model count, you can end up losing. Now, I think I probably put that to my loss the other day, actually, when I was playing as Sisters of Battle, who usually have lots of models. I actually chose to take less models and more higher powered ones, and it cost me because I couldn't get round the board and I couldn't score all the points I needed to score, right? And I think that is often the way with Custodes, especially in smaller games. So if you're playing 1,000 points only, I think that's a real difficult factor. And then even at 2,000 points, you know, again, I'll use my Sisters of Battle as the example. I can have way more units than what a Custodes player can have, and that alone, you know, just means that you can go and do all of the little side missions and bits and bobs let them kill a couple of useless units and just put them up for sacrifice, and you know, and be happy that you're scoring points all the time. So it can be a massive down point, because every model, especially if you do find yourself up against a tough opponent, if you're playing as Custodes, and they wipe out maybe 1 or 2 of your models, that could be an end game for you, because that's, you know, all of your firepower gone. So it's really difficult. What's happening in chat? Adrian's saying, I'm a Cyberpunk player, and the Iron Hands start with the Bionic Hand. They are, mate. Yeah, they do, sorry. They do start with the Bionic Hand. You're very right. Some have Bionic legs and things like that as well, I believe. So yeah, I don't know. Does it give them... I've not looked at the book. Does it give them a bonus to have that? Adrian's saying, Custodes have gold armour. They get better weapons and grav vehicles that fly. They get better dreadnoughts too. Better in what sense? More powerful? Because remember, the points value does do a lot. I wouldn't say necessarily their vehicles are better. The dreadnoughts look awful. So I don't like their dreadnoughts for that reason alone. They look terrible. In fact, so do their grav tanks, to be fair. They look horrendous. I mean, that's my personal opinion, but I think they look terrible. And for the price of maybe one of the... I don't know, actually. I'd have to double check the prices, but on the points, you know, you can have a lot more Space Marines, for example, than you can have Custodes. But hey, Henry Cavill plays Custodes, so, you know, they must be fairly good. God, could you imagine that if Henry Cavill watched this show? Ha! That would be nuts. Hello, Mr. Cavill, how are you? Made any more films recently? Specifically Warhammer ones? Ah, yes, Steve, I'm just currently making the Warhammer TV series with Amazon. Ah, are you, Henry? Fascinating. So I'm having my own little conversation with myself here. But that's pretty much how the conversation between me and Henry Cavill would go, right? Yeah, I thought so. Oh dear. Long week, eh? Yeah. So, yeah, I'd say the downsides of Custodes is a lot harder to score objectives, and that's really the key. I mean, I killed all of my opponent's models, but I lost because I couldn't secure enough objective points. So, you know, it's not always about kill, kill, kill. So I think that's the major disadvantage with Custodes. However, it's cheaper to buy. So if you do want to go and buy a Warhammer army, 1,000 points of Custodes is not going to cost you a huge amount of money in comparison to, you know, say, Sisters of Battle, which would cost you a lot more. So there you go. It swings and roundabouts, right? It has its good points, has its bad points. So, question. Do we think that Custodes perhaps might be too powerful for small games? What do you reckon to that question? Drop it in the chat, let me know. I'm just trying to look at this bolter whilst we're here to see if there's any other bits that we need to do. There's a little bit just there. Yeah, the question from me to you guys is, do you think Custodes are too powerful for smaller games? What do you reckon? Just doing just a couple of the edges here, which are real tiny, but it's worth just doing. Making sure you've got the right bits done. Let's get rid of that. A little bit of silver. There's not a huge amount of colour variation on this weapon, to be fair, so it's quite an easy item to paint. go. Alrighty. Okay, I reckon we let that dry and we'll put that onto... And it doesn't take much to dry. That's what I love about Warhammer painting. So when you're building models like this and you're sort of putting them together bit by bit like we are here, it doesn't take long for these models to dry, so you can really sort of get them together quite quick. Let's put a dab of plastic glue on there. Get the arm. And there we go. Oh. Dang it, so this is a bit of a fiddly one actually. So once you do hold these in position quite quickly, with the plastic glue as well, it does hold quite fast, generally speaking. So it's pretty good. Although I'm put that on there and I'm a bit worried. But can you see now, Adrian, for his trigger finger duties there, that actually, because he's in a pose rather than sort of tactical approach or something, he's fine. He's not too bad. Let's leave him there to dry. We've got this little tiny little bit to do. So it looks like a little rose. So what we need to do is put a little bit of gold around the edge, and then we need to go for white for the rose itself. So what I'm going to do here, when you've got little pieces like this, always keep some blue tack handy, so you can just blue tack the tiny piece to the top there, because there's no way my fat fingers can hold such a tiny little object. So it just means now we can quickly waz round the edge here and give it that gold edging. There we go. And then we'll come back in a second and put the white on top for the rose. Or the rosette, however we want to call it. There we are. Let's get some white out. You need a manicure, King. I need a manicure, King. Nah, man. Don't need a manicure. Not ever. I will never take a manicure, unfortunately. I think I'll lose all my masculinity if I went in for a manicure. Yeah, I'll stay away from that. But thank you, ASDF. Appreciate you dropping in the chat. If it's your first time here, make sure you subscribe, like the video, turn on your notifications, do all that good stuff. So our last unit that we were talking about was the Adeptus Custodes. So let's move on, and how about we talk about... well, we just mentioned a minute ago, actually, the Adeptus Mechanicus. Let's talk about these guys. So these guys are an odd bunch. They don't look like, for those that don't know, again, I'm going to try and do a layman's description. They're not like Space Marines, and they're not these sort of big, strong, muscly geezers that are trying to shoot people. Actually, these are little robots, and again, those that are super Warhammer nerds, excuse my descriptions here. I'm trying to do the best here to describe something for someone that might not ever know what one of these are. But the Adeptus Mechanicus, just imagine little robots like R2-D2s or C3POs, and then like they have they have loads of different types of robots. They take sometimes human bodies and apply robotics to those dead human bodies to keep them alive, to do menial tasks and things like that. Exceptionally intelligent, and they make machines generally. So they work for the Emperor, but they don't, like the Space Marines, believe as the god of the the Emperor is the god. They believe that the machines there is a machine god, and that's what they kind of serve as such. So that's what they believe, and that's what they like, and they're very weird looking little figures. So they do have really strange looks. So I'd say stylistically they have a really different look to what the majority of other armies, especially in the Imperium, which is the supposed good side. So they do have a very different look to other units because they're all robots and they're all odd looking. Some are really skinny, some are really large. They have this very strange look to them. So yeah, so Adeptus Mechanicus, very interesting to look at. So if you want something that looks a bit different, I'd say Adeptus Mechanicus could certainly fill that void. Darn it, too much glue. The Adeptus Mechanicus are not robots. That thought is heresy. No, you know what I mean though, Adrian. I'm trying to describe it in the best way for someone that might not be a super nerd like yourself. If you just took out a picture of one, people would assume it is a robot, quite frankly. So yeah, that's my best way to describe them. So they're very individualistic looking. So they do look cool in that sense. So I would give them a big plus for that. So I do like them for that part. But then, because they sort of have all these weird spindly little arms and stuff, they are really fragile. So I'd be I'm worried about my sister battle when I play with those. If I had Adeptus Mechanicus, I'd be worried even more so. Sorry guys, I'm just having to repaint over this shoulder pauldron because I put too much glue in that little space and it kind of ran over and spoiled the blue on the shoulders. Might need a little bit more blue actually. Put that in there. Yeah, so they're quite cool looking. They have a lot of synergy sort of heavy buffs, relying on each other to buff each other and keep each other in the fight, which is quite cool. So that is a good point. So they can buff each other a lot, and by that it means they can support each other with skills and abilities to enhance them, which is quite nice. So that's quite a cool thing. What else about Adeptus Mechanicus could we say? They're quite a shooty heavy kind of army, so I wouldn't say they're particularly known for their melee. They do have some melee aspects, but I would say they're pretty much shooty. Pretty much. So if you like just, the shooty aspect of things, you like an individualistic style and look for your army that's, going to be completely recognisable on the battlefield, hey, maybe Adeptus Mechanicus is your thing. Maybe that's where you should go to. There we go, just tidying up that cape as well, the top of the cape with that glue spilt over. Yeah, what are they? I'd say, as I've mentioned, super fragile. God, some of the, look at this Space Marine, right? He's quite sort of chunky. You get I'm trying to find something that is comparative, right? So you'd have like this. This would be the leg. Well, let's do it that way. There's your foot and your leg. That's your comparison. Like of Adeptus Mechanicus model to a Space Marine. They're teeny, skinny little things. I'd be so frustrated putting one of those together. I've not built one actually, and maybe I should, just so I can comment on it properly. But just in general, I don't think I'd want to. Just looking at them, they look so fragile. What else? Apparently they're quite sort of rules heavy. I've not played them, but from what I've read, they've got quite a lot of crappy rules, and they're quite complex to play. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's just from what I've read about them. And Warhammer's got quite a lot of rules anyway, so if you're new to the game, perhaps maybe Adeptus Mechanicus would not be a good choice for someone that's new to the game, because they're quite rules heavy, quite a lot of rules in there, quite confusing. So maybe that's not the right army for a new player. But, you know, if you like a challenge, if you're a super brain box, then maybe it is the right thing for you to do, or the right unit to play. Who am I to tell you otherwise? I'm absolutely nobody, that's who. Right, okay, just putting a little bit of silver on there for that. This little piece here is actually gold, but the chain is silver, so we could always do this little chain whilst we're here. There we go. There's the chain. Let's put the gold on. Oh, itchy arm. So, next army. Let's go with my favourite. I've spoken about them a couple of times. The Sisters of Battle. So, pluses. What drew me, and I'm going to talk about my own personal thoughts here on why. But what drew me to the Sisters of Battle, the models just look freaking epic. Like, don't get me wrong, this guy is pretty cool, okay? And Space Marines are pretty cool looking. But Sisters of Battle look so freaking awesome. They're completely, a bit like Adeptus Mechanicus, they're completely different to any other look. And they're so cool. I personally think they have the best looking models that are out there. That's my opinion. You know, shoot me down if you wish. But I think they're just generally quite cool. I also like the fact that the entire army is made up of ladies, apart from a couple of key figures, so sort of priests. They're all ladies, so they're all hardcore biatches that can fight and kick ass. Some people call them nuns with guns. They call them nuns with guns because Sisters of Battle are they believe in faith over power. So you know, rather than having kick-ass huge weapons and huge sort of saves and all the rest of it, and huge abilities, they believe in faith, and that faith is going to get them through alone. So they have a thing called miracle dice, and actually miracle dice are really cool. No other unit has miracle dice. Eldari have something similar, but not the same. And that means that rather than, you know, the skill of the warrior, which, you know, you could say is a Space Marine or Adeptus Custodes that gets you through the battle, actually it's your pure faith, and you have this moment of miracle where you can connect with your God Emperor, and your God Emperor helps you through the battle in that moment. And I love that, because some days it can pay off and you can walk away with some really great wins. Other days it can let you down where the dice just don't roll right for you, right? And that's pretty interesting. I quite like that fate kind of feeling when playing with Sisters of Battle. So I think miracle dice are a cool aspect to gameplay. It gives you a lot more to think about. They do have a sort of strong synergy, and by this I mean that you do rely heavily on other units being on the table to help other units do other things, or having special character models in your units to be able to play them, or play them most effectively. So some units, as I said, let's use the Custodes as the example. Now those guys are pretty darn powerful, even the lowest beings there. Whereas Sisters of Battle, because they rely on faith, they're not super powerful. Some people do describe them as glass cannons. I don't think that's the right term, because they don't really have a lot that hits particularly hard. However, what they do have is you do have to pair a lot up to make things work. and it's taken me quite some time to learn what to pair up to get it right to start actually moving and progressing. And only recently have I unlocked the key, or feel like I'm getting somewhere with that. So that could be as a downside, right? They're quite difficult to play. They are poster girls. Yes, they are. They're the poster girls. They're awesome. But I do love the Sister Battle. They're a cool faction to play. Look completely different. They're all chicks, so that's really different. And you know, they sort of rely on this whole holding faith in the God Emperor to be able to pull them through, which I quite like. They're super fragile though. In fact, they're fragile in two ways. The models are a little bit fragile, not quite as fragile as the Adeptus Mechanicus, but they do have fragile models. But they're fragile in battle. Do not go into a battle expecting your sisters to last very long. You have to be comfortable with allowing them to be sacrificed and to just get in the way for other units to do something. So it's another thing I've sort of learned over my journey as a player, is to get anywhere with Sister Battle, you have to sacrifice models. You have to just put them in there knowing they're going to die and let them die. And let them die well. And then once you get sort of your head around that, you can start to then think, right, okay, I'm going to put that unit there to sacrifice that, to tie this enemy up to be able to do this. So it's quite a bit more thinking, I personally feel. So yeah, but they're a great army. I am going to be biased because I play as them, but they are a great army. It's just tidying up some of the blue areas here that I've kind of missed. Just applied a little bit of extra gold around that U in the centre. Finished off that, which is looking quite nice. There we go. Alrighty. Let's just check. Oh, it's just some white speck of something. Okay, cool. I think we might be cool to go. Oh no, we didn't do that little bit there, did we? So that should be gold. He's got a lot of gold on him, this guy. I think it's because he's double hard. So he's got loads of gold and shiny stuff. But that's okay. I'm actually going to not use gold. I'm going to use like a kind of bronze colour. Because too much of one colour is sometimes just a bit crap. So I'm actually going to go against the grain here and use a bronze. Which will still look awesome, but sometimes you just need a little subtle difference. There we go. Yeah, so what else is bad about the Sister Battle? I think the weapons really do struggle quite often. They're not good in melee at all. There's only one unit that you have that is good at melee. The rest are pretty abysmal, really. They've only got one wound, so they die very quickly. Everything is toughness 3 apart from a couple of units in your tanks. So again, you really do have to be prepared to let them die. And know what is right to sacrifice. So what can you use to tie people up? How can you get in people's way? How can you get rid of something to be able to do something else? If you can live with that, then I think you'll make a good Sisters player. And have plenty of faith. Because if you have no faith, then I can't help you. Go. There we are. Nice. Okay. Oh, sorry. I just painting out of shot there. So we've just done that little bit there. We've got the bolter done. Got all the front done. So he's looking quite good. Let's see what is next to do on our list. Actually, I might just drop some shading on that rose. Just to make that look slightly different. But I want a kind of bluish shade is what I'm looking for. A light blue shade. Let's try this one. This will look quite nice. Well, it's actually a contrast paint. But I want a little light blue just so I can pick out the details of that. Oh, he's not in the picture. Pick out the details of this rose. That's what I really want to do. So I'm just going to drop a contrast in on that just to see if that will help. I don't know if this is dark enough or not, but possibly. Okay, yeah, I'm not sure on that. I might put another contrast over the top of that. I might go for a darker one. So I've got like a subtle blue underneath, and then I might go for a darker one on top of that. Yeah, I'm not sure. Anyway, we've got more to build on this bad boy. So let's just move out of the way for a second and go back to our instructions. What we saying in here? JPC's in the house. Gah! I'm here. I'm not paying attention to that streamer's on. Oh, man. Come on. Adrian's saying, after the Horus Heresy, when the Rhino was used by all Imperial forces, it was decreed that only the Space Marines were allowed to use them. Oh, crikey. Well, that must... When did that change then? After the Horus Heresy, when the Rhino was used by all, it was decreed... No, do you mean it was decreed that before the Horus Heresy that only Space Marines could use them? Because now everybody uses them now. Adrian was also saying when the Sissa battle came along and they are a recent army, they got access to the Rhino chassis instead of the Chimera. Oh, Sissa battle have been around since like 3rd edition. So they've been around for quite some time, dude. But anyway, interesting fact though. JP says, I will post some Massive Darkness 2 this weekend. Oh, yes, please, sir. Yes, please. That'd be good to see. We are on the last page of assembly here. So we've got the his backpack, but it's not a backpack. We've got the arm, we've got the other shoulder pauldron. Okay, cool. So let's go to over here and let's have a look what we got. Let's cut that out. Got the backpack, got the shoulder pauldron, and we've got the arm with the big whacking sword. Let's just cut that out. Sorry if I'm out of shot for you guys. Last thing we've got is the head as well. We might as well take that out. And we've got the base too, so... Right, that's everything off of the sprue. So there's the base. It's quite a nice funky kind of base to go on top of this base. So you've got this base here, which is a standard kind of 32mm base. And you've got that to go over the top to look all smart, to make a sort of metal flooring. Might paint that first, actually. Let's see how that goes. Painted way too much silver on there with my dry brush. Didn't wipe it off. See, that's what happens. So now I'm kind of buggered. Yeah. Okay. Well, that didn't work to plan. Silly me. Now it's going to have to be more of a stronger silver amongst everywhere really now. Never mind. That's okay, we can live with that. Oh no, I've got gold on there, have I? That looks awful though. I don't really like that at all. I'll have to redo that at some point. That doesn't look very good at all. I don't like it. It's very, very uneven, very crappy. Not a fan. Sorry, just doing my painting off camera again. Rather frustrating. Yeah, not a massive fan of that, but well, I might have to tidy that up later. Let's just get the old blade and then make sure we're cutting all the bits of the sprue off. There we go. I've got to check time actually. Oh, it's 8:15. Crikey. Been going forever. God, I've been waffling on and I'm not even like halfway through any of the armies yet. I best bloody hurry up, better I? So that was Sister Battle anyway. Let's move on. Talking of chimeras, no, Sister Battle have only been around since the end of the Age of Apostrophe in M36. Oh, yeah, I'm talking about editions of 40k. So they've been around since 3rd edition of 40k, I'm pretty sure. Let's check. Let's check, Adrian, shall we? Let's check. When did the Sisters of Battle become an army in Warhammer 40,000? No, what edition? I don't know. I don't want to know the year. I want to know what edition of playing. 1997 was the first codex, so when was 1997? I don't know. 97. What edition of Warhammer? What edition of Warhammer was in 1997? Second edition. Oh, so they've been around since 2nd edition. So they've been around a long time. And that's what I was talking about. Editions, not timeline. Oh, dear me. There we go. Right, that's that done. That's that one cleaned up. Let's clean up this one. So, who else have we got anyway? Astra Militarum, so they are the sort of humans, just like Sister Battle are humans, and they're not sort of superhuman like Space Marines, or robots like the Adeptus Mechanicus, but Astra Militarum are just plain old humans, and they come in tanks, and they come in huge swarms of infantry. There's lots of them. And a lot of different versions as well. So you can get like the jungle fighters, which are really cool. You can get the Cadian infantry, which are cool as well. You used to get a load of others as well, but to kind of stop, which is a bit sad. But they're still very smart looking. So if you want an army that, so good points. You want an army that looks like people and looks a bit more realistic, that you can relate to, then maybe the forces of the Astra Militarum are for you, because they do obviously represent humans in this world, so they are relatable to you, or they might be relatable to you in that sense. So if you like the standard look of just a standard old soldier, then go for Astra Militarum. They've got loads of tanks as well. They've got loads and loads of tanks. So we were chatting a minute ago at various different platforms that different armies have. Cool, Astra Militarum have the coolest tanks. So I must say that. But what do you get with them? Tons of models, loads of variances, loads of different squads. There's loads and loads and loads. So you do get that, which is nice. That's pretty cool. As I said, you've got loads of tanks, and the tanks are freaking powerful. Some people that play Astra Militarum only play with tanks. They have very little apart from just tanks. So they're super high firepower. They really do kick ass in that sense. So, hey, if that's for you, then maybe the tank world is where you should be. So if you like big kick ass tanks, if you want to be a human, then go for the Astra Militarum. They're pretty cool. Just attaching this guy's head now. Uriel Ventress's head. There we are. Actually, I'm going to take that out. I'm going to let that dry because that's going to be really difficult to paint if it's there. If I plug that in the hole. So that will probably have to be a job for our wonder of blue tack. So there we go. We'll stick the head on there and do the blue tack in a sec. What else can we paint now? Let's start with this shoulder pauldron. Let's do the back end of this. Yeah, so Astra Militarum are pretty sweet. They have some cool characters actually as well. So I actually bought a few of the Jungle Fighter characters just because they look awesome. So they're pretty cool for that reason. I like that. Loads of firepower, loads of tanks. That's the good parts. Bad parts, they're pretty weak. As in, you know, because they are only human, and you know you're fighting alien races or superhuman soldiers. You know, they are weak in comparison, so you're going to have a lot more. So that can also be a bad thing, can be a good thing. Some people will think, oh great, I get loads of models. However, can be very expensive to have lots of models. Games Workshop do love to charge a pretty penny for their models. So, you know, be prepared for that part. And be prepared as well that, again, a bit like Sisters, you're going to have to sacrifice them. You're just going to have to throw them in there and know they're going to die. The problem is, I think, sometimes when you start playing Warhammer, is you get a bit attached to your army because you've put all this love into making them. You know, you've put all your time and your effort into making them, and then you're like, no, I don't want them to die. But actually, it's the 41st millennia, and everybody dies anyway, so just get used to it. It's the grim dark. So be okay with your units dying. If you're Astra Militarum. What else? Yeah, I think they're a bit like Sisters in the sense they do need a bit of synergy as well. So you have to run models together to be able to get the best from the individual ones themselves. So you may find that you have to, you know, run a few different models together, which could be a pain in the bum, but you might enjoy it. What other armies are there? There's Death Guard. Death Guard are bad Space Marines, and again, don't take this literally for those people that love the lore, but bad Space Marines that are infected with a plague from Grandfather Nurgle, who's a big baddie. So they look like Space Marines, kind of. So they have very similar features, but they have this kind of plague amongst them. So they're sort of got these, what's the best way to describe it? Like a mushroom spore cloud that follows them around, and they have this like rot that goes all over their armour. So if you like that sort of grungy kind of bad guy kind of feel, maybe these guys would be good for you. I must say, Grandfather Nurgle is an awesome model. So he is absolutely epic. The Great Unclean One. Oh my lord. That is an epic model. I love that model. It's massive. It looks cool. It's just this big fat green bloke. Absolutely huge. And yeah, he just looks very, very cool. So, you know, a cool looking model. So if you want just a cool looking model as your big boss, then this might be the one for you. In fact, it's fair though, a lot of the different factions have got really cool models as their bosses. But this one is exceptionally cool looking. What are they? They're super durable. Although they're not quite as tough as or durable as Custodies, but they are very durable. They can take a lot of hits, so they will stay around for a long time. So in that sense, it's quite good because it's quite a forgiving army. So in case you make a mistake, they do look cool because they have this kind of death rot following them about. That's a cool factor. Durable. What else would I say about them? I've not played against them yet. Hopefully I'll get to play against them in a couple of weeks. But yeah, I would say durable, have a lot of cool buffs on them. Hard to kill, I believe, from what I know. Which can be very annoying. Right, let's let that dry. What else do we want to say? What about bad points? They're very, very slow. So I think one of the bad points that a friend of mine has said, they are super slow to move. So that can be quite frustrating. So if you want to get across the board very quickly, you're not going to do that with Death Guard too fast. They have one or two units that can move fast, but the majority are very slow. So be prepared for that if you're going to play as those. What else would I say is bad about them? Is it bad to say they're kind of one-dimensional because they're just huge swarms that are going to come towards you very, very slowly, hit you with some firepower early, not super strong but fairly strong, and then they're going to come and get close up and personal with you. So fairly predictable because I don't think they've got a lot of utility. I could be wrong, but I don't think they've got a huge amount of different utility that they can do. I think it's pretty much one-track mind. But again, that could be absolutely fine. And it might make it an easier army to play. So, hey, that's not a bad thing. We should stop to do our muscle moment in a minute, shouldn't we? Because we're like over halfway through the show and I haven't even stopped yet. So silly. Alright, here we go. Just slapping on a bit of this Calgar blue here. So hopefully this arm can dry at least. Whilst we do the muscle moment. There we go. Any other people dropping in? That's what we're saying. Big guns never tire. Yeah, baby. Why are you painting that shoulder when there's going to be a shoulder pad glued over it? Oh, I always do. I always do on all my models because if there's ever a little bit that sticks out, it's painted. Because some of the models I've done before and I thought, oh, I'm not going to paint that and I'll leave that, and then you stick something on and then something sticks through and you're like, oh, damn it. Now it looks stupid. So I always do it, Adrian. It's like I paint the inside of my tanks when nobody can see them. But me, I know they're there. Go. We'll finish this hand and then we'll go to our muscle moment and do that as we should, because we wouldn't be the place where the brawn meets the brush. We didn't talk a little bit about fitness, right? Try not to. Try and keep it mostly geek, but we do have to do a little bit of fitness now and then. And we also have our hobby horror moment as well. We've got to cram all that into 30 minutes. It's going to be tight, guys. Super tight. Right, okay. Cool, cool, cool. I think that's good. Oh, sorry, I just dropped it out of shot there. So we've got that to go on there as well. Oh, darn, I didn't paint in the middle of that shoulder pauldron. Dang it. Again, when you're doing these little details like this, don't worry too much when you go over, because we've got to go and paint the skull in a second, so if we go over that just slightly, it's not too much of a worry. Go. Sorted. Okie doke. Right, let's just pause there. Just for a moment. Just so we can do our muscle moment. And I can have a bit of a 2-second breather. Shoo, boomf. There we go. Back to the front view. There we are. Ah. Woo! Okay, so we wouldn't be the place where the brawn meets the brush if we didn't talk about fitness for 1 second. 1 goddamn second. And the 1 goddamn second I wanted to take with you guys is to understand why you're not progressing in something. So when it comes to your fitness challenges and what you're trying to achieve, why are you not progressing? Why are you not finding success in what you're trying to do? Well, I just wanted to cover a couple of basic points that might help steer you. So I wanted to sort of chat around 6 sort of honest reasons people fail to make progression in their training. They may be hard truths that you might not want to swallow, but you should take them on board. So 1, being honest about your diet. I know way too many people that have or don't be on it. Oh, look at my shoulders all ran the wrong way, look. I know too many people when it comes to diet that just simply are not honest with themselves about what they eat. So they might be trying to stick to a calorie deficit, or it's just even might not be a calorie deficit, but it might be a certain calorie point. But they cannot, for the life of them, be honest, because they think, oh no, that 1 biscuit doesn't matter, or that 1 can of Coke doesn't matter, that 1 coffee doesn't matter, or whatever it is. But they're forgetting that, all right, coffee on its own is probably not insignificant, but if you add milk to it, or if you have a can of Coke, or if you have something like that, that's still calories. So you must be honest about your goddamn food. That's 1 point. Number 2, you're training, but you're not training without intensity. Now, a lot of people will turn up to the gym, and they'll push a few weights around, mop their brow with their little rag, and then they'll walk out again. That's not going to be good enough to be able to change your body. To change your body, you're going to have to go through pain. Now, to go through pain means that you're going to have to dedicate yourself to a regime at the gym. You're going to have to go a few times a week, at least I'd suggest 4 times a week, and you're going to have to train bloody hard during them sessions. Now, if you're not finishing every set thinking, oh my God, what am I doing here? Again, you're probably not training hard enough. Same as the food. I know too many people that go to the gym, expect to do nothing and expect to do very little, and all of a sudden have the body of Adonis. Not going to happen. Okay, so make sure you're trained to intensity. Point 3, linked to your intensity is your volume is too low or perhaps too high. As I mentioned, you should be training probably 4 times a week to be able to get or start to build and see your physique change. If you're training 7 times a week, you might actually be putting your body through too much stress. So rather than grow the muscles, you end up wasting the muscles away slightly, or just you plateau and you don't get any bigger, you just stay at a certain level. If you're not training enough, you are going, again, you're not putting in enough work to be able to see the changes. Make sure you put in the intensity and the volume that's appropriate to make change, and it's going to have to be big. You want to get big, make big changes. Step 4, sleep. Sleep and rest days. These are really important because, again, part of the whole training regime requires your body to rest, recuperate, where that then means it can build and heal the muscles that you're tearing and ripping to try and build up and get bigger. Oh, excuse me. So you must ensure that it's talking to sleep. You must ensure you get enough sleep per night, and you must ensure that you include rest days in your training program. Your body needs it. Not just mentally, but physically, your body will need it, especially if you're training at the right intensity and the right volume. Step 5, you change your plans too often. Okay, so you're the person that goes to the gym, and you go to the gym, and all you do is, oh, I'm going to do this week, I'm going to do that this week, I'm going to do this, and all you do is chop and change. You have to stick at a regime for a significant period of time. My suggestion is probably 9 months plus, to see good change. You'll see changes throughout it, but to really start seeing it, probably 9 months, maybe 6 months at a push, and you have to stick to that regime. Unfortunately, it can become monotonous, it can become boring, a bit like diet sometimes. That can become monotonous and boring, but it's the only way to achieve it. Point 6, you're not setting clear enough goals. You must, if you're trying to achieve something physically and change your body, you must set out those goals so you have a focal point to go to. If you don't, you will have no purpose, and you will have no direction to go anywhere. So you'll go into the gym, and rather than, say you want to get massive, if you've not set those clear goals, right, I need to get to 100 kilograms in weight, I need to look at like this, I need to look like that, you're going to go there and you're going to fanny Annie around, and you're never going to get anywhere. So make sure you set goals. Right, there we go. That's the muscle moment for this week. Woo-wee! That was fast and furious. Hopefully it was some good advice. If you need any more advice, feel free to email me at Minis-N-Muscles. That's Minis-N, the letter N, muscles, at I think it's Gmail. Yeah, so email me there. Let me know. I'll see if I can help you if I can. So all we need to do now is try to finish off the arms and get this guy glued together before the end of the show. Can we do it? Oh, silly Billy. Did you see what I did there? I don't know if you did see what I did. I took the paint straight out of the pot and put it straight onto the model. Not good advice. I wouldn't do that if I were you. Right, that's that done. Let's get this, and let's put a bit of glue on here. There we go. Little dob of glue. And let's get his arm on. So his arm should be down across his body like that. Let's just hold that there for a second. And again, another nice thing about plastic glues, they really do stick so quick. It's quite surprising actually how fast plastic glue sticks. So you shouldn't have to worry too much. But there you go, there he is, looking cool already. Righty, so we got this. We need to start working on the backpack. So again, with these bits that you've got holes that you don't want to fill and you want to stand out, go against the grain and just run your brush across it, and you'll find that... Oh, sorry, I'm not painting. I was painting here and not painting in the window. So yeah, run your brush across this way, and you will find that you can avoid painting in the holes. So you don't then have to go back and do it all again. Because that's the last thing you want to do. You don't want to be painting inside the holes themselves, or going back and having to do more than what you want to do. Because ultimately you want to paint these models to a good standard, but you want to get them on the table so you can play with them, right? That's the aim of the game, or to put them in a nice little cabinet and have them on show. That's what you really want. Whoop. Oh no, I keep dropping things. So, given we've only got 20 minutes left, and we've still got our muscle moment to do, we've still got our hobby horror to do, I won't stop painting. I will do our hobby horror whilst we paint. So, the hobby horror for this week is Fragile Minis and the Wooden Table Catastrophe. Dun dun dun! So, what do I mean by this? Well, we spoke a little bit about it earlier, right? Sometimes models can be super, super fragile. Sisters of Battle have a couple of models that are super fragile, and there are other armies that do as well. Space Marines actually are not too bad, but they're still only plastic, right? In some cases resin, in some cases metal. So they're not ultra durable. Now, when I started collecting Sisters of Battle, I wasn't really... I'd only just started getting into Warhammer, really. And I wasn't super aware of stuff. So I just made these models and built them all together. And they are, some of them, like these flying models especially, in the Sisters of Battle, are super delicate. And they have these tiny little stands that they're attached to by a little bit of glue, and I built these, and I had them on the table here in my man cave, and at the time as well, I just had them all my models out across the table. I've got this sort of wooden table that I sit at here, big sort of old style oak wooden table, and had them all out, and they were all out on display because I painted them all. I was really happy with them, right? So you should be. And I went along and I dropped... Now, was it... I think it was a couple of paint pots. I dropped a couple of paint pots into my models that were on this wooden table. So this was an absolute disaster. There was nowhere for the models to go. So they were only going to bounce all over the hard table and smash up. And they were all next to each other. So what I did, I ended up smashing about 4 of these models, breaking them off of their little dainty stands, and having to re-glue them all. Absolute nightmare. I'm not sure if anyone else has had any similar situations where they've had a same kind of outcome, where they've got these very dainty models and they end up painting them and then they smash to pieces, which is rather frustrating. But I lost about 4. I didn't lose, so I had to fix them, 4 models. And then once I did, I bought a mat for my table, because I sod this, I'm not having that happen again. Got a mat for my table that goes across the entirety of my table. Nice neoprene mat that acts as a battle map as well. And that's one thing that I did to stop, just in case I did drop something or drop a model on the table. Because even just dropping the model itself on the table ends up in them bloody breaking. So we've got this mat, and that works really well. But there's other things you can do as well. So I learned using, oh god, super glue is not good for plastic models, so that's where I learnt my lesson. Plastic glue is far better, although super glue, the reason why I use super glue is because they have these really dainty little stands, and I wanted it to stick quickly so I didn't have to hold it all the time. But actually it's worth holding your models in position and waiting for the glue to dry, because otherwise you end up with a very brittle model. So get yourself some glue, get yourself a nice soft area for your models, and be very careful around hard surfaces is what I'm saying. It was a bit of a nightmare, but it was still fixable. So yeah, that was my hobby horror moment I wanted to update you guys on. It actually happened a little while ago, so it wasn't something recent, thank the Lord. It was a few months back. In fact, it had been longer than that. Maybe a year ago. Maybe a bit longer. Yeah, but it was a learning curve nonetheless. A curve that we have now learned from. There we go. So I don't know, we might be able to get this done by the end of the show. Hopefully. What's the time? 47. Oh, we're up against it. We're up against the clock. So some people, like Adrian, will say, Steve, why are you painting the back of this here? Well, because quite often you can see the little bits, and it bugs the heck out of me when it's not painted and I can see it. And when I know it's there, I then can't not see it. So I have to paint it, just on the off chance that you might be able to see it too. There we go. Oh. Just done. Oh, that needs doing. Go. Okay. So I think we could probably do a little bit of silver on the back here and then get that on his back. Oh, no. So what is everyone's plans for the rest of the weekend? Have you got good plans for the weekend? Are you doing much? Are you going out? Are you geeking it? Is anyone going to be playing Warhammer this weekend? Maybe you're playing D&D. Perhaps you're having a Pokemon party. What about, are you going to go and play Dungeons and Dragons somewhere? I'd love to know. Stick it in the chat. Last 10 minutes or so of the show. Can't believe it's been 50 shows that I've done. That's crazy. Can't believe I've actually stuck at it and done 50. That's quite something. Go. Paint the back of these. Can't remember if I painted these silver or not on the other models. Might have to check those in a minute. No, the reason I said it was because bare plastic to bare plastic is better silver plastic glue. There's less of it. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, absolutely, mate. You are correct. Bare plastic to bare plastic does work better. I'm not doubting that whatsoever. And I actually know that. But I just like everything to be painted. I don't know why. It's just my thing, man. It's just my thing. I just like it to be painted. Yeah, I never thought I'd get to 50 shows, to be fair. I have quite enjoyed it. It's pretty fun. It's pretty fun. Oh, what else are we going to talk about just before the end of the show? A couple of other units, I guess. We didn't get nowhere near through the lot of them because I waffle on. What else we got in here? Necrons. Let's talk about Necrons. Great army, super durable. I think they're really underrated in their durability. I think they're really good. My mate plays as Necrons, and they seem to have some really good options to keep them alive. I think one of their detachment rules actually is they bring people back from the dead, which is pretty cool. So they bring that if a unit dies, model dies, they can bring it back, which is pretty smart. But yeah, they're super durable. They have loads of firepower. So again, I can talk from my mate's army. Some of the firepower they've got is insane. They really do some damage. So if you're sort of wanting an anti-tank type army, I definitely say Necrons are good for that. Very, very good. They've got some great cool looks as well. So very sort of T-800 Terminator style, you know. So if you like that kind of animated robot kind of look, then they are super cool. What else are they good for? Super durable, really good against tanks. Models look cool. Oh, they're easy to learn. So Necrons have got, like, even the units themselves have got like one weapon per unit, and it's the same weapon. So super easy to learn. If you sort of have that in contrast to the Sister of Battle, they have, like, each unit has about 50 different bloody weapons. So even when you're rolling, you have to remember a lot of different profiles, whereas Necron's units are just like one profile, that's it, X amount of shots, boom, done. As my mate always says, oh, I can't believe how many different weapons you have that you have to remember. It's really complicated. I just roll one profile and that's it. I'm like, yeah. So if you want something simple, simplistic, then I think Necrons are pretty up there for that. So worth a shout if that is what you're after for your Warhammer army. Simplicity. Let's just open this up. I just wanted to see the back of his... Oh, okay, so he's got a couple of little bits on the back here. Red. Okay. Little red. Let's use this red. Little red ropes on the back of this. There we go. So yeah, I quite like Necrons. Cool looking. What's bad for them? I think they're pretty slow as an army. They're not massively rapid, especially some of their heavy hitters. They're sort of like the never-ending wave that just keeps walking towards you. So they're not super fast. I know that much. What else? I think they don't have many new units, to be fair, Necrons. I don't know if that's true, but I don't think they don't seem to have a lot of new units. It seems like, not that they're outdated, but they seem to have been around for quite some time, a lot of their units. I don't know if any Necron players are watching right now, but if you are, feel free to drop a comment in. But I don't think they have many new units. So that could be a downside if you're looking for new stuff. But I guess if you're just starting, they're all new to you anyway, so it's not so much of a problem, is it? Oh, Elias. Hello, Elias. How you doing? Just came back to check in on the live stream. Nice backpack. Thanks, dude. Hope you're well. Hope you're keeping all right. We're just kind of wrapping up here, actually. It's the last little bit. Just sort of slapping some colour on very, very quickly. There we go. There's that. So there's our guy there, Elias, if you can see him. He's slowly getting there, right? He's getting there slowly. Eventually you will mention the T. The T. Oh, Tyranids? Is that what you're talking about? I don't know. You have to tell me what you're talking about there, Adrian. Go. Again, could have possibly painted this sword before putting the shoulder in place. Probably would have been a better idea, actually, to be honest. Quite often it is, but then you get the sort of itch that you want to build the model right, and you want it to be put together so it just looks freaking awesome. So yeah, it's a bit of sort of that impatience thing versus waiting. So that's silver for that. Want a bit of bronze on this part. Sometimes like speed painting. Trying to do it as quick as possible. There we go. There we are, we've got a little bit of... Oh, that's why. We're a little bit over there on that one. That's why it looks slightly odd. Let's redo that. A bit of silver. There we go. Here, it's all gold, baby, all gold. One thing I must say about Warhammer models in the whole, because the detail of the print is pretty good, You don't have to be a phenomenal painter for the details to stand out and for it to look really good. You can be, you know, a very average painter like I am, and actually you can walk away with a model that looks really, really smart very, very easily. Now it's getting into the nooks and crannies where I've put the sword on, and I probably shouldn't have. I should have bloody waited. But standard here, we don't wait here on Minis-N-Muscles. I'm very impatient. So I end up sticking all the model together and putting it together when I probably shouldn't. And then we suffer later because I'm there then trying to paint in very awkward positions to get these tiny minute details in. And again, someone would probably say to me, well, you can't see behind, no one's going to look behind the sword and no one's going to look there for this and blah blah blah. But I will, and I'll know, and that will upset me. So I have to make sure it's painted in the right places. You can't just leave it. A very subtle kind of bronze along the top of that. You can just about make out the difference in colour. I put actually the bronze on the end of that. And for the handle, I like this sort of darkish kind of maroony kind of colour for handles on swords. I think it just looks very smart. Oh, eventually you'll mention the towel. Oh god, yeah. See, Adrian, I've just run out of time, man. I just haven't even got to towel. There's so many factions that I haven't covered tonight, and I'm so sorry. Tau is one of them. Chaos Space Marines is another. Tyranids is another. Thousand Suns is another. There's loads that I haven't mentioned. So apologies if you were waiting for those to pop up. And for me to talk eloquently about them. Not that I ever talk eloquently about anything. But if you were waiting for me to talk about them, I do apologise. I just happened to get waylaid and chat too much crap. Have you see that there? The new squats? Yeah, there's loads, dude. So Leagues of Votan, Eldari, Drakari. Yeah, there's loads I missed. Absolute loads. Which is a annoyance. I'm rather annoyed at myself, but it's okay. It's not the end of the world. So in the centre of the sword here, there's this sort of oval shape, and I'm just putting a base of silver down, and I will put a contrast of red over the top, so it looks like a red kind of ruby. There we go. That and that. We reckon we can stick that on. Let's see if we can get this done. Come on, Steve, we can get this done. We can get this done. Right, that's on. So I've just put one shoulder pauldron on, and if I take that, a little bit of glue in there, put that on the back here, that is then on. Just got to hold it in place actually, because the little ropes that are just dangling at the bottom there push the backpack just slightly off. So it doesn't get a very good seal. We don't get a very good kiss from the rose. Whee! Anyone get that joke? No? Probably not. But he's almost done. He's pretty far in there. Right, so let's look at him here, look. Backpack is on. Shoulder pauldron's on. There's a few details to do on his right arm. But centre's all done. Centre's good. Left hand side's done. There's got a couple of little what they're called. Jesus, I always forget what they're called. They're not rosettes. They're purity seals. I've got a couple of purity seals to do on both sides. But it's not bad. And then obviously you've got the head to do as well. So we can do the head and get the head on there. But he's almost there, guys. Our Uriel Ventris is almost there. So he's looking pretty sweet so far. I wonder if we just put a little bit of... I know we're running over, but sod it, we've run over already. So I wonder if we just put a little bit of red contrast. Maybe some pink, actually. Maybe that would look pretty cool. So I'm just getting a contrast to put over this little sort of jewel. Just to see what that looks like. Yeah, that looks pretty funky. I like that. Do it on the underside. There we are. Underside is done. Do you want that side? Oh, it's just a little bit, teeny weeny bit missing on there. Just around the edge. There we go. Covered. Nice. Okay, that looks cool. Happy with that. Alrighty, let's wrap up. Let's move our camera, the whole, that. What is XP at the top for? It just increased. Oh, I haven't got a clue, dude. That hole at the neck, was there a nub that you cut off the sprue? Perhaps you shouldn't have. No. If you look here, look. There you go. The nub is still on the head. So the head can go in the hole. But it's currently in there at the moment on our plaster scene. So it's ready to paint. But there you go. That's what he looks like right now. He's looking pretty good. He's not completely done, but he's not far from it. So probably about 75% stage now. So he's looking pretty good. Let's swap over to the front view. Woo! 9:10. Crikey. Well, it has been an absolute blast. It's been the 50th Minis-N-Muscles. Thank you so much for joining me on this crazy ride. I appreciate every single one of you. As always, if you could share it, if you could like the video, if you could comment on the video, make sure you're subscribed, make sure you turn notifications on, share it with the world, and then we can dominate the world and have 1 billion people watching. That would be pretty cool. But aside from that, have a wonderful weekend, everybody. I really appreciate you. Stay safe, and I will see you all very soon. Take it easy. See you soon.
Minis-N-Muscles, we're heroes, right? The dying world's still mighty skies. Rushing air, where power we fight. Strength that breaks you, night in the night. Where the brawn meets the brawn. The story's told in this land of legend. the world to follow.